Hi guys. Sorry about that. We had some sort of a technical malfunction here with the Wi-Fi. So I'm sorry about that. That took a bit of frantic 6 minutes of IT, which was all done in a very mindful, frantic way. Okay, so what we're going to do today is take on Leadership Part 2, the company. And this is a very interesting session, actually, because we're going to talk about a little bit about intention setting, and we're also going to talk about the way you view your company. And so we're going to do that. But first of all, let's get started with a little pause. We will run over now, of course. We'll run over by 6 minutes because we started 6 minutes late. So bear that in mind, okay? We will run over by 6 minutes. Okay, so get your hands on your... Oh, before we even go there, turn the phones off, as we always do. Get that done, and obviously headphones on, all those things as well. Obviously notepads and pens at the ready. There will be note-taking in this lesson. In fact, there might be quite a significant amount of note-taking at one particular point, so have your pads and pens at the ready. Okay, so first of all, let's just do our little pause. Let's start the way we always start. Get your hands on your thighs. Probably by now you're very well versed at getting into the right position for your meditations. So get into that position and allow your eyes to close again, just like you always do. And again, breathe in through your nose and allow yourself to really feel that sensation of your breathing taking over and your breathing doing what it naturally does, which is naturally slow and naturally lengthen and naturally deepen. And this time, do check in with your surroundings. Make a little mental note of those distractions that may be around you right now. Make a mental note of any footsteps or voices, or just, if you like, pre-note the things that may distract you during the 60-second pause. So you can kind of be prepared. You've already got those things pre-noted. And then just allow yourself to feel your points of contact again, your feet, wiggling your toes in your shoes, and your hands on your thighs again, the way your bum is on the seat perhaps, the way your head just stands up all on its own like that, the way your arms just dangle like they do. And then just really picture in your mind's eye, really observe the air gently coming into the boundaries of your body, and really observe the air gently leaving the boundaries of your body. And I'll give you 60 seconds, and I'll do it with you. I'll just sit here and allow yourself to be distracted only long enough just to note what you're being distracted by. And then once you've noted what you're being distracted by, bring your attention and your awareness back to your breathing. Okay, so here we go, another 60 seconds, here we go. Okay, so if you could just allow yourself to come back to clock time, come back to the room. You can wiggle your fingers, you can wiggle your toes, you can come back quick, you can come back slow, and let's just get cracking right away. What we're going to do today is see actually if there's anyone who wants to mention anything about the homework or the feedback. If anyone wants to say something about that, then do please feel free, like raise your hand or even send a question during the actual webinar itself, and then we can actually sort of use that in the session. I know there's a few people who've I've been unable to attend today, so there might be less people than normal on that. But let's just go straight into the two kind of major aspects of what we're doing today, just to outline them briefly before I give you a kind of keynote on them. The first one really is I'm going to give you a particular practice which is very useful for sort of short moments. But I'm going to couple that with something we call intention setting, which is when you set your intention out loud. You actually say, perhaps under your breath if you feel self-conscious, you say what you are going to do, what it is that you're going to achieve. And then you take a practice, which we call, in fact, a tool. The short practices, which are sort of in situ, the short practices which you can use at work, they're called tools. And so we give you a tool as well. So you set your intention, maybe under your breath you say what it is that you're going to do. Then you take a short tool practice, like a 60-second practice, and then you attempt what it is that you set your intention to do. Okay, so that's sort of intention setting, and that could be very, very useful. It's an interesting thing because it's a way of making real something. If you say out loud what you're going to do, there's no mistaking what you're going to do. You've uttered it, so your whole complete physiology, mind, body, everything knows what the intention is. That's why intention setting can be so useful. And the other thing is we're going to personify. We're going to personify your company. We're going to give it a life. At CalmWorks, what we do is we go into companies and we assess them and give them essentially what their requirement is from a mindfulness and emotional intelligence perspective. And the way we've always treated companies is as a sort of living, breathing thing, as a sort of entity in its own right. So although this may seem like one of the sort of strangest things you do with us, actually it has weight, it has a value. The idea is to sort of build this concept of how you view your company. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to give you this little keynote here, a little bit of how we will break it down to make that process simple. Okay, so first of all, this is leadership part 2, the company. And what we do is we break the company down into 3 things, and I'm going to deal with 2 of those things right now, and then we're going to take a pause. I may briefly go through the exercises, and then we'll go back to the last thing. So we're going to do 2 things here. Now this is where your notepad and your pen and your pen and your notepad are going to come in handy. So the first thing is the company culture, what we call at CalmWorks, what we call the ethos, but actually it's simply the company culture. And to make that easier to understand, we break that down into 3 things. The first thing is the stories of the company, the history, how people talk about the company, what happened in the past, perhaps how the company was formed, amazing things perhaps that the company has done, but the stories, the things that people talk about the company, the things that make the company, the history, all the stuff that makes up the company, the stories within the company. And perhaps even you've got some aspects of future there because you've got some future stories too, something that's going to happen as well. So this idea of the stories within the company, okay, that creates some of the company culture. The next thing is the rituals, and it's a bit like how the company deals with customers could be a good example. What do customers expect when they walk in? Do they get a cup of coffee while they wait for something? Do they get a newspaper? Do the employees expect to have their time cards examined very carefully? Is there a lot of talk about money, or what are the rituals when a new problem is encountered? What rules do people apply when they solve it? What is the sort of behavior, if you like, what would be immediately obvious in the company if it was changed, for example? What are the core beliefs? And all this is surrounding rituals, surrounding the routine of the company, if you see what I mean. What is the routine within the company? Okay, so I hope that makes sense. This is the kind of company culture. All this is the company culture. And the next thing is the values. That's fairly straightforward. That doesn't need much explanation, really. What are the values of the company? What is the company belief? What is the company value? What are the values of the company? Okay, so that all relates to company culture. That's the sort of ethos for company culture. Okay, so the next note to put in your books is strategy, perhaps the company behavior, the way the company behaves. And again, we've brought 3 words into that to kind of help you determine that, the way the company behaves. The first is the goals. And the goals and the values, remember, they're different things, two different things. A value is like a sort of aspect of something that is like an altruistic or a moral something like that, whereas a goal is something very specific. We are going to achieve this specific thing. That's why it relates to strategy and to company behavior, the goals. The next thing is the organizational structure, and that's simply, is it a hierarchical structure? Is it a formal or an informal structure? Is it organic? Is it mechanistic? Where are the lines of authority, for example? And are these informal lines of authority? How is the company structured? So that's that sort of idea of the company, okay? So that's another thing as well. And all these are going to bring in when we kind of characterize or personify the company as well. And the last aspect of company behavior is the control systems that exist within the company. Is it loosely controlled? Is it tightly controlled? Do employees get rewarded for good work? Do employees get penalized for poor work? What reports are issued? How operations and finance dealt with all those control systems within the company? Okay, so that's slightly different to organizational structure. That's much more to do with the control aspects of the company. Okay, so just make a brief note of those. It's just, you only need the words, strategy, company behavior, goals, organizational structure, control systems, because those words will key off what we've been talking about a little bit. So what we're going to do now is going to seem a little odd. It's possible it might seem a little odd. I'm going to do a little exercise, okay? I'm going to take about 2 minutes to do this. And we're going to use something called 60 seconds. This is your tool for today. This is your little meditative practice for today, which is an applied tool. Very basically put, I'm going to time 60 seconds. I'm basically going to get you all so you're kind of relaxed and breathing in a sort of relaxed fashion. And I'm going to time 60 seconds. During that 60 seconds, you're going to write down how many breaths you take. That's how many complete breaths. That's one breath is in, turn around and out. 2, in, turn around and out. So one complete breath in when you're turning the breath around, and then out. So that's one complete breath is that process. So I'll count 60 seconds and I'll say when I'm doing it. All you have to do is to literally count how many breaths you take in that 60-second period. And then on your pad, you're going to write the 60 seconds, which is the name of this practice, the name of this tool, and you're going to write down the number of breaths that you take in 60 seconds. The reason for this is that because you have, sometimes at work you have a limited amount of time, and what we're doing here is we're giving you something which only takes 60 seconds out of your day. So you can walk to the window, close your eyes, become relaxed, and take this number of breaths, and then you've only taken 60 seconds out of the day, okay? Very simple. So let's just do that. We'll just get into that position we get into when we meditate. And what we're going to do before we do it is we're going to set our intention. What you're going to do is you're going to draw, or if you don't like drawing, you're going to write a description of your company. But you're going to draw it as some sort of a character, something that could be animated, for example. You could draw it as like a person. You could draw a puppet or a teddy bear. And this is going to sound like one of the wildest things you do with Calmworks, but strangely, it's a very good way to focus and a very good way to see the company as a sort of living, breathing entity. So whatever it is, it could be something really awful, it could be something really wonderful, it doesn't matter because it's your personal view of what the company is. You just have to draw this sort of personified character of how you view the company, okay? So before you do this little practice, you're going to set your intention. You're literally going to say out loud, if you're self-conscious, you just say under your breath, I'm going to draw my personification of the company. I'm going to draw my version of the company character. That's it. So I've just said that. I've just said that out loud. All you need to do is say the same thing. I'm going to draw my representation, my physical representation of the company. Okay? So go ahead and say that out loud. And once you've said that out loud, we'll begin. So all you need to do now is to get yourself into that position you get into when you meditate. Get your feet nice and flat on the floor. Get your hands nice and flat on your thighs. Get your eyes nice and closed. Allow yourself to fall inside a little bit and take your attention inside yourself. And allow your breathing to lengthen, and allow your breathing to deepen, and allow your breathing to slow. And when you feel calm, when you feel relaxed, when you feel like your breath is slowed significantly, I'm going to start the clock, and I'm going to start timing 60 seconds. And all you have to do now is simply count the number of breaths that you take in 60 seconds. So here we go. We're going to count starting from now. And stop counting now. Take your last breath. So allow yourself to come back to clock time. You can wiggle your fingers, you can wiggle your toes, you can come back quick, you can come back slow. There's no rush here. So write down the number of breaths that took in 60 seconds. So all you have to do is write down the 60-second pause and then the number of breaths that took. Now, I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and I'm going to do this too. And I want you to draw some sort of physical representation of your company, okay? It doesn't matter what it is, but it has to be something that can be animated or something that is animated, something that you can see has a natural life to it, okay? So just do this for 2 minutes. And if you don't like drawing, you don't feel you can draw, just simply write a description of what the company is. Just write a brief description of what you would draw if you liked to draw, okay? So I'm going to try and do that now too. Just give us a couple of minutes here, okay? And I'm terrible at drawing, by the way. Okay, that's probably long enough. If you didn't have time to draw something, don't worry, you can spend more time on it. I'm going to show you what I drew anyway. This is my physical representation of Calmworks here. We've got the American and the British flag because we are an American and British company. So I thought that was the big thing that I put in. You can spend some time on this if you want to. That's totally fine. Now I'm going to take you through the exercise really briefly, and I'll just double check. Sorry, I'm just going to show you actually my picture here. I just drew Calmworks as an American and a British company because it is an American and British company, and this is my representation of the company here. This very simple drawing. As you can see, I can't draw. But this is what you're going to do with this. I'm going to take you through the exercise really briefly because unfortunately we didn't have any questions come in. No, just checking that. Okay, good. So there's no questions, so that's all right. We've got a bit of time for this. All you need to do is very simple. I'm going to give you another handout here. I'm going to just put that into your GoToWebinar session, and hopefully that will be, yep, there we go. Leadership Part 2. Cool, so you should have that now. And of course, I will send you an email with this in too. I'll just very briefly take you through this. What you're going to do is you're going to use that 60-second breath to add, to label that drawing with aspects of the company culture and aspects of the company behavior, and you're just going to simply put those in there. And then once you've done that individually, then you're going to get together with your group and you're going to sort of exchange both the pictures themselves but also the aspects of the company behavior and the company culture that your colleagues have as well, perhaps. And so that will help you perhaps think of other things, but say essentially really knowing the company, really understanding the inner workings of the company, the person of the company, okay? And then once you've done that, I'm going to take you through something which is the reason that we've done all this. You're going to conduct an exercise which is an individual exercise. There are two of them, and this is going to be quite personal. So I want you to really, view this as something that you don't need to show anyone if you don't want to. You're going to do something called 5 years time, where you will take another one of those pauses or a practice you like. It depends whichever one you like. And you're going to picture where you want to be in 5 years' time. And that includes everything, where you want to live, what you want to be earning, family, friends, all those things. So picturing where you want to be in 5 years' time. And once you've done that, and once you've given a sort of rounded idea of where you want to be in 5 years' time, you're going to do the same thing for the company. You're going to imagine where the company wants to be in 5 years' time. And you're going to use that concept of the company as a person, as a real living thing, to actually see where you want the company to be in 5 years' time. That could be something very, very specific. It could be something related specifically to your department. It could be something related specifically to your job in your department. Or it could be something broad, okay? So it's entirely up to you. You're just simply going to do the same for the company that you've done for yourself. Once you've got these two things, once you've got these two 5 years' time aspects in front of you, then you're going to circle the areas that have common ground. You're going to circle the areas that for you, where you go in your life, also benefits the company, and where the company goes in its life also benefits you. So you'll see that, business, it puts the clothes on our back, it puts the roof over our head, the food in our mouth, but there's also more to it than that, particularly if you like what you do as well. There is that aspect as well. Even if you're not that happy with the work you do at work, you can see that there is a direction that the company is taking that is similar to the direction that you need to take. And actually there's a mutually beneficial area beyond simply being paid, beyond simply giving your time in exchange for money. So that's the aspect of the company and yourself and the 5 years' time. That's that piece, okay? So that's the exercise there. Now let's just get back to the keynote, because we're going to do perhaps this important part of this lesson. This is change. Now, one of the biggest issues with regard to leadership and to companies is the difficulty that we have as human beings in embracing change. You can do a lot of work on something, maybe a project or something, and then a manager could come and say, well, this is all wrong and you need to do it again, and there's change right there. This is this aspect of embracing change. Sometimes it's very difficult, but actually this is something really big. This is something that leaders do. This is something that leaders relish doing. And it takes us back to Leadership Part 1, the self, because we touched on responsibility and discipline. One of the definitions of that was it's not the event that's important, i.e. it's not the change that's important, it's how you respond to that change. Another way of saying that is actually when you're switching from avoidance of change to approach to change. So instead of trying to avoid change, you actually are relishing change. You're ready to get stuck into change, all right? So I'm going to try and underline this by explaining what happens in your brain when you practice avoidance instead of when you practice approach, okay? So I'll put them up here, approach and avoidance. With approach, your left prefrontal cortex activates, and with avoidance, your right prefrontal cortex activates, okay? So there's just two very technical areas of the brain that are different when you practice approach and when you practice avoidance. Remember, approach is approaching change or approaching a challenge. Avoidance is avoiding change or avoiding a challenge, okay? Approach is very much motivated by positive ends. Now that's fairly straightforward, and you can see how that applies. Conversely, of course, avoidance is a kind of fear of negative ends. So you can already see how avoidance it doesn't contain that positive side to it that approach does. Approach is excitement about the future. Approach is all those aspects that are positive about getting stuck into something. Approach is also a global processing. I said it was the activation of the left frontal cortex, but actually approach brings in all those other parts of your brain. Remember, if you don't cast your mind back to the taster, we had the secondary somatosensory cortex, we had the dorsal medial prefrontal lateral cortex, all those pieces of the brain that I was going through, the insular, all those pieces. Well, approach is very much a global processing thing from your brain. And avoidance, of course, is a kind of local processing aspect. You use that one small part of your brain then. Approach is also, by its nature, a sort of cognitive malleability, cognitive flexibility, the ability to bend and yield and be strong and incorporate, accomplish, and do all those things where you're actually being subjective, not emotionally invested. You're pushing for the team very much as a leader, in fact, for the team. So that's something that cognitive flexibility. And of course, conversely, avoidance is the rigidity. You're not able to. You're kind of sitting in that one, thing, trying that one thing again and again and again. Approach is also an intense amount of intentional ability. It's ability to focus and hold your attention on something. And if you think about that, that's fairly obvious and straightforward. A challenge or a change, it's obviously going to require your attention. That's a good positive sort of use of your brain. Avoidance, obviously, conversely, is a lack of focus as well. So you have that aspect too. And lastly, approach it lends itself to having a very flexible mindset, meaning that you can focus and perhaps even refocus more swiftly, but also to have the ability to look at the broad picture of something instead of going into one particular piece of it and being stuck on a sort of lateral process of one particular piece. You can look at something in its entirety, look at the whole aspect of something, if you like. And of course, avoidance is a sort of rigid mindset. It's really important when embracing change to remember that all things must pass, okay? Everything must pass. That's a fact of change, and it's a fact of life. Everything is different. The sun comes up every morning. There is only change. Change is inevitable. So all these things are really useful to remember when you're embracing change, no matter how difficult it may seem to be doing so. But it is certainly one of the most powerful things a leader can do. So that's quite. Now I'm going to back all this up again with an email, so I'll send you the notes and everything for that. What we'll do is we'll end, as we always do, with a body scan. We'll do the dissolve body scan this time, and that should take us just to our overrun of about 10 to 11. So I apologize again for the late start today. That was due to our technical difficulties, which were handled in very swift time in a mindful way. In fact, there wasn't much franticism, in fact. So do that thing you usually do. Get your pads down on the floor and your pens down on the floor again. Put your hands on your thighs. Get your feet nice and flat on the floor. get your eyes nice and closed, so allow your focus to fall internally and to focus on your interior. Check in on your hands and your feet and your extremities and your physical being, your physical sensation. And again, allow your eyes to close. Allow your breath to come in through your nose. Allow yourself to really follow the breathing. Check in with those parts of the body that you know to be tense and willfully and deliberately relax them all. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable, take all of your attention and all of your awareness to the tips of your toes, to your toes, to your feet, to your ankles, and to your heels. And as you breathe in, take a nice, long, slow, deep breath and allow your breathing to go all the way down through your body, past your hips, past your knees, past your ankles, and right into your feet, filling up every single particle of your feet. And when you breathe out, allow every little piece of your toes and your feet and your ankles and your heels to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. When you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your shins, your calves, and your knees. And when you breathe in, take a nice, long, slow, deep breath and really feel every single particle of your shins and your calves and your knees completely filling up with air, every single particle. And as you breathe out, just allow your shins, your calves, and your knees to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, again, don't let me rush you and don't let me hold you back. Take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your thighs and to your hips and to your pelvis. And when you breathe in, take a nice, long, slow, deep breath in. Really allow your thighs and your hips and your pelvis just to completely fill up with air, every single particle. And as you breathe out, allow your thighs and your hips and your pelvis to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel comfortable, when you feel ready moving on, and again, just to let you know, if you find that some parts of the body are more stubborn than others, it really doesn't matter. Just allow yourself to let the air flow round those parts or through those parts. It really doesn't matter. So take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your abdomen and to your chest. And as you breathe in, really look at everything like you're looking at it for the first time. Look at your ribs and your lungs, your intestines, liver, kidneys, all those parts of you, all the vertebrae in your back. And really allow those parts of you to completely fill up with air, every single particle. And when you breathe out, do the same thing we always do. Just allow your body and your abdomen to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention, all of your awareness to your fingers, the tops of your hands, the palms of your hands, your wrists, and your lower arms. And when you breathe in, take the breath nice and slowly right down through your body and completely fill up every single particle of your fingers, your hands, your wrists, and your lower arms. And when you breathe out, we do the same exact thing. We just allow everything below the elbow to dissolve completely away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your elbows, to your upper arms, to your shoulders, and to your neck. And when you breathe in all the way, allowing your elbows, your upper arms, your shoulders, and your neck to completely fill up with air, every single particle. And when you breathe out, allow your elbows, your upper arms, your shoulders, and your neck just to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And let's just take a really brief moment. Just allow your attention and your awareness to fall on everything below the neck, right to the tips of the toes and the tips of the fingers, and all that's in between. Really allow yourself to breathe in to your completely dissolved body or your partially dissolved body. And when you breathe out, really allow yourself to let go. Allow your whole entire body from the neck down just to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. And when you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention and all of your awareness to your eyes, your forehead, your eyebrows, your nose, your cheeks, your chin, your lips, your whole entire face, in fact. And as you breathe in, just allow your whole entire face to completely fill up with air. And as you breathe out, just watch. Just let go. Let it all completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. When you feel ready, when you feel comfortable moving on, take all of your attention, all of your awareness to the back of your head, to the top of your head, to your ears, to your jaw, to the sides of your head. And when you breathe in, nice and slowly, allow your whole entire head just to completely fill up with air, every single particle. And as you breathe out, allow your whole entire head just to completely dissolve away, just leaving an outline behind. Now we'll take another real quick 60-second pause, and just allow yourself to enjoy the sensation of the completely dissolved body, of a partially dissolved body. Maybe even give yourself some more time to work on those areas that are a bit more stubborn than others. And let's use that little particle of science and that particle of imagination. The science being that we all know that our skin breathes, and the imagination being just to extend that thought so you can really picture a whole entire body breathing from the tips of our toes to the tips of our fingers to the top of our head, and everything in between, partially or completely dissolved, just for 60 seconds. Really enjoy that sensation. So here we go. Okay, so you can allow yourself to come back to clock time. You can wiggle your fingers, you can wiggle your toes, you can come back quick, you can come back slow. There's no rush here. And I just want to briefly recap. So if you'd like to grab your notepads again, I will send an email as well, so you kind of got all this in an email too. But you're essentially today personifying the company. That's a big part of today. You're viewing the company as a living, breathing thing. And you're bringing your knowledge of all the aspects to that company, but also your group's knowledge of the aspects of that company, what the company does. So you're creating this character, this sort of living, breathing thing. The reason for that is that that's the only way CalmWorks can operate within the corporate environment, is to see the company as this living, breathing thing. So we want to see if you can picture that too. The next thing is to set your concept of where you're going to be in 5 years' time, where you want to be in 5 years' time, and couple that with where you believe the company needs to be in 5 years' time, and then find the common ground between the two. And what we're using today to help us with that is a particular tool, which is the 60 seconds, but it doesn't have to be that one. The important piece is setting your intention, literally uttering your intention out loud to yourself. If you feel self-conscious about doing that in the office environment, you just do it under your breath so no one can hear you. You just simply say it out loud. The reason you do that is because then there can be no mistake as to what you have asked your entire self to do, your mind, body, everything. You've asked it to do this one thing. You've set your intention. It's a very useful thing to do. Then you do the little tool, the little miniature practice, and then you try the exercises, okay? So that's Leadership Part 2, the company. Next week is our last lesson, Leadership Part 3, the team. That's all about team dynamics and how you deal with individuals in the team and your relationship to the team. So I look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much again for coming. Thank you for listening. Again, I say it's very humbling to do this, and it's a real pleasure to be able to impart some of my knowledge and hopefully to get some of your knowledge as well, and so we can all share together. I'm really excited about the group work and the effort that people are making to do all this, so thank you very much. And I'll sign off. That's just over 45 minutes, and I'm sorry we started a bit late today. Apologize for that. Okay, so take care. Bye-bye.